Well, Eskom wants South Africans to pay almost 20% more for electricity. If the power utility has its way, the increase will come into effect in April. Let's discuss this with Eskom Spokesperson Khulu Phasiwe, who joins us on the line now. Khulu, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. For starters, let's just get these figures right. This is what I have in front of me now. Eskom wanting 20% more from its clients as of the beginning of April next year, and over 27% more for bulk electricity from municipalities as of July next year. Is that correct?
Well, Joanne, so far we have not submitted our application to the regulator yet. We have what we have done is to submit our consultation documents to the Department of Finance, which is National Treasury, and also to SALGA as per the Municipal Finance Management Act. So far, we are not talking about figures yet because we are talking about drafts. That information, when we ultimately are ready, it will be made public, but at this stage, I'm not in a position to confirm any figures.
I understand that this this information was contained in a draft tariff application.
Well, that's what has been reported on. From our side, Joanne, we can only confirm figures once we have submitted to the energy regulator, which will happen in due course.
So this has to go to National Treasury and to SALGA as well, I understand, for comment. Do you think they're likely to change these tariffs that have already been leaked to the media?
Well, over the years, it has happened in that way. Whenever we propose, sometimes they do agree with us based on the circumstances that are sort of prevailing at the time. Sometimes, obviously, they ask us to whittle down. So we are expecting the same. In fact, they have already made their input, which we are now putting together in terms of our final application, which we will be sending out to the regulator very soon.
But of course, public consultations will have to take place before NERSA makes any final decisions.
100%. In terms of the NERSA regulations, any tariff increases above 10%. There has to be public consultation.
Let's say hypothetically this 20% is what Eskom is going to ask for. How will you justify such a big increase?
Well, in 2015, the then Minister of Finance, Minister Nhlanhla, had said at the time that Eskom needs to migrate to what they call as National Treasury cost-reflective tariffs, meaning that there was a realization within government generally that our tariffs actually are coming from a low base. And for many years, Eskom has actually artificially kept the electricity prices very low. But we cannot sustain ourselves if we continue along that trajectory, which is why there's that need now for us to gradually migrate our prices upwards so that we can remain financially sustainable.
At the same time, of course, we've got independent power producers who are working towards a situation where they say it won't be necessary to put up all these coal-fired power stations. They say it won't be necessary to have nuclear either. I mean, are you not expecting ordinary South Africans to overextend themselves when we may not need this amount of power that Eskom is projecting we need?
In fact, part of the reason why over the years, at least over the last, say, 4 years, there's been a gradual increase in terms of our prices. Partly has been because of the introduction of the renewable energy project. You'll remember that these projects are a pass-through, meaning that the regulator has said we can spend money on them upfront and then we can claim that money back through what they call a regulatory clearing account, which is basically a balancing exercise that the regulator has to do. But so far, that project has been blocked because there's a court challenge around it, which is why Eskom currently is unable to claw back the money that's being owed to us. Currently, I think we're owed about just over 20 billion rand, and there's no guarantee that we're going to get that money back.
And of course, I mean, that money is legitimately owed to you. But there are a couple of things here, Khulu. There are many South Africans who would argue the increases of the past few years have not been gradual, that there have been jumps in the price of electricity. And secondly, the management of Eskom, the way the SOE has been managed over the last few years, and what has happened with regard to the disbursement of funds, alleged corruption within the organisation. How do you expect South Africans to easily swallow the prospect that the price of electricity could go up this drastically when, I mean, you were considering paying Brian Molefe a 30 million rand payout when he left?
Well, Joanne, this year, the National Energy Regulator has granted Eskom a tariff increase of 2.2%, which is way below inflation. And in 2013, the regulator itself had said that Eskom is going to get a tariff increase of 8% for each one of the 5 years up until 2018. So in other words, what Eskom has seen this current financial year is actually a reduction of over 6% instead of 8% that we were guaranteed for. But that's how the system works. There are certain things that the regulator wants us to do. If we fail to do them, then obviously the regulator will claw back against us. If we do them and exceed them, then we are able to claw back from the customer through an adjustment of the tariff. So the issues around the performance of the company, we have done everything possible to improve our efficiencies. And if the regulator agrees with us, we might get a tariff increase over maybe say a double-digit tariff increase. And as we have said, this is primarily because generally over the years we've been starting from a very low base, and we need to gradually ramp up our tariffs so that they can be cost-reflective.
And if you don't get a double-digit increase, are we expecting something along the lines that board chairperson Ben Gubane predicted, perhaps more power cuts?
Well, we don't want to go there, Joanne. We are doing everything possible within our means to make sure that we run the power without having to resort to load shedding. As a matter of fact, the 2.2% that we currently got for this year is actually much lower than our requirements. But we are going to absorb it and to make sure that we don't put too much pressure on the consumers. But if we continue along this trajectory of below inflation tariff increases, then obviously it will have a bearing on our operation. And I don't think all of us as a country and government in particular would want us to go that way. So I'm sure we will find a sweet spot somewhere so that Eskom can become financially viable, but also not to have any difficulties on the customers as well.
Thank you for talking to us. Eskom Spokesperson Khulu Phasiwe.